So now I think you kind of gave a nice little, transition into it. You talked about map grooves, anti-surge housings, ported housings. Um, let's talk about precision specifically, and give you that opportunity to kind of talk about like where precision was, let's just say 5 years ago to now, and what components on the inside of the turbocharger you've changed, like the weight of the turbine wheel or the fin angle on the compressor wheel, the difference between cast and billet compressor wheels when it comes to performance and class specs and weights. And I'd really like to get your opinion and your feedback on those things, on those really technical things.
Yeah, so I guess the best way to start that off with would be to look at like cast versus billet wheels. Um, so traditionally, turbochargers back in the day, they always had a cast wheel. Those wheels were made by manufacturers, and they may have been made for different applications, tractors, trucks, different things. And those wheels were then used to manufacture turbos to use in the performance market. So we had kind of a limited amount of sizes we could use. We had a limited aerodynamic profile, if you will, as well as the cast wheel does tend to yield when the turbo gets surged, repeatedly. The cast is a little weaker and it can come apart. So the move was to go to billet. And a lot of people think billet has a huge advantage over cast from a performance standpoint. And it's kind of a double-edged thing there. It is, it does have a performance advantage because we can make wheels any size that we want. We could rapidly make them. You can, cut a new wheel in a day versus with the cast, you have to go through that whole mold and tooling process. It's very costly, and you're not going to make new technology, new wheels, new aerodynamic profiles, as regularly as you would be able to with the billet wheel. Also going to like precision, we use a 2618 forged wheel. So we actually start off with a forged ingot that's then CNC machined out. So, you look at the strength of it, we have considerably more strength over a cast wheel. And it allows us to do, a much more aggressive aerodynamic package. We can also do much larger wheels, keeping the weight down. As well as a lot thinner blades and smaller hubs. So in the end, it all comes around to efficiency. We can basically make a much more efficient wheel that allows us to make significantly more horsepower and also keep that transient response, or most guys, they relate it to spool up.
So, kind of going off of that, I've got a question that kind of popped up in my mind here. Is that, you talked about the racers, making modifications to the turbos. Has that in X275 kind of led you guys to be, if that has that influenced what you guys do in your turbo technology? Kind of like instead of you pushing it down to the consumer, have they done stuff where you guys are like, man, we got to, let's take this down the road from a manufacturing standpoint?
I'll say not really. As far as if you're referring to people modifying existing product and then us following down that path to put that into like a production piece, um, not really something that we've done. We've always tried to stay true to like we design a product for a particular market or particular application, and that's kind of the product we stick with. Especially when you're referring to X, with X275, we've always held by the standard of we wanted to make a product that's competitive in the class, but we want to keep it within the rules, and not just in the rules. We want to keep it within the spirit of those rules. We don't really want to go into that gray area, just because we don't want to go there. We don't want our customers running products that other people are going to point out and say, well, that's kind of cheated up. We want something that's 100% legal and to the class. And I'll say there's probably some things in the street car market that were heavily influenced from what some of the racers have done. It's definitely kind of, we've passed that technology down, to some of the streetcar stuff. We started off doing our V-band, stainless steel housings. That started off as NHRA Pro Mod for SFI, and that's now trickled down through all of our turbos. So even like some of our smallest turbos, we now offer that same style housing on. So, well, the technology kind of goes down, but we don't necessarily, like I said, we won't take something that somebody's done to a turbo necessarily and mimic that.
Yeah, I guess the way I was going with that question is more along the lines of how much of kind of the R&D development has that gone back and forth between the company and the racers, because racers, they're awesome at breaking stuff, and they're also awesome at figuring out how to make stuff work and go faster. And if that was something where you guys were able to go, oh well, that's interesting, and kind of worked off of that and work with racers. I know some companies do that, but again, with like to your point, with X being such a very like rules heavy class, that you can walk that fine line of you get into some weeds you don't want to get into there essentially.
Yeah, and I'll agree with that. So yeah, so as far as that goes, we have definitely had customers that have broken a lot of stuff over the years, and they send it in to us. We always look at it, evaluate it, see if there's something that we could make better, especially from a longevity standpoint. You want your product to be able to last race after race, as well as in the R&D side of it, we do work directly with racers. We do test our products with racers, and we look at all that data that we get back, and analyze it and make sure what we're doing is more efficient, makes more power, and I'll say that the racers do play a big role in developing turbochargers, from that standpoint.